Alzheimer's world. Two circles trying to reconnect. It takes lots of thought, hard work, and the development of a new mental construct of communication and behavior to understand Alzheimer's disease. Hello everyone, I'm Bob DeMarco, founder of the Alzheimer's Reading Room. Before we get started, I want to ask you to consider subscribing to our Alzheimer's Reading Room channel on YouTube, and please consider liking and sharing this podcast. It takes lots of thought, hard work, and the development of a new mental construct of communication and behavior to understand Alzheimer's disease and the behaviors of a person living with Alzheimer's. It takes time. Take the relationship between my mother and me as an example. I knew my mother my entire life. We have been communicating our entire lives. I would imagine that our communication is similar to most people. We engaged in all the human behaviors and emotion over the year. We established patterns of communication to deal with the good and the bad. Did I ever get angry with my mother? Of course. Frustrated, agitated? Of course. When we had a problem with each other, we learned how to work it out, how to make up and reattach. Over the course of 50 years, we developed our own method of communication, our own behaviors. Then, Alzheimer's struck. Our communication and the way we related to each other changed abruptly. It changed abruptly overnight. This probably happened to you. It was as if our ability to communicate effectively had been robbed from us. I knew and understood these changes were being caused by Alzheimer's disease. On the other hand, my mother couldn't see the change. She couldn't understand what was happening. When my mother would say something mean or act out a crazy behavior, I experienced the same emotions I had my entire life. Anger, frustration, agitation. I actually wrote an article about this previously. The title is Alzheimer's Care, Anger, Frustration, and Agitation. You can find a link to that article in the show notes below this podcast. So, why wouldn't I feel anger, frustration, and agitation? I felt the same exact feelings and emotions that I had been experiencing for 50 years. I had 50 years of practice. Looking in from the outside, most people would conclude it's easy to come to an understanding that meanness and craziness are a direct result of Alzheimer's disease. They conclude you simply adjust and come to an understanding that Alzheimer's is the cause of the behavior. And as a result, you can just shrug off the meanness and craziness. This is far from the truth and the reality of the situation. I think you understand what I'm saying here. It is not easy being one of us. It is not easy being a caregiver for a person living with Alzheimer's or a related dementia. It is almost impossible to explain to someone how difficult the adjustment is, how difficult this adjustment can be. How difficult? It took me years while I was trying to do it all day after day, every day. I finally made the leap when I started to develop pictures of the behavior and finally came to some simple conclusions. I had to change. My mother couldn't. I had to find a way to get into Alzheimer's world instead of trying to drag her back into the real world. She wasn't coming back. Never. Many of us learn the hard way. A person living with Alzheimer's or a related dementia is not coming back into our real world. Here is how our life looked before Alzheimer's. This is what the intersection of our lives looked like. My mother had her life. I had my life. Our lives clearly intersected, and we had all of our shared experience stored in the intersection of these two circles. We had an understanding and frame of reference that we developed over our lives. We knew each other very well. We knew how to deal with each other. After Alzheimer's struck, this is what our life looked like. You'll notice two distinct, separate circles without an intersection. It was like we were two new and different people. I guess you could say we had to get to know each other again. I think it's obvious that when you first meet someone, it takes time to get to know them. Over a long period of time, you get to know and understand them better and better all the time. In this particular case, you have to get to know a person and deal with a person that is often mean and often does things that make you angry. This is what happens when a person is living with Alzheimer's. You really have two distinct choices. The first choice, you can walk away, or you can hand the problem to someone else. The other choice is to learn how to love and care for someone that does things that normally would make you do what you do. You have to choose. You can choose change and understanding, or you can try to do what I call the hamster approach. I wrote an article about this, the Alzheimer's hamster within you. If you're running around like a hamster, around and around and getting nowhere fast, I suggest you read the article. You can find the link in the show notes. Don't be a hamster. Don't run around the hamster wheel faster and faster and get nowhere fast. If you choose the hamster approach, you'll most likely end up bitter and angry, or worse, depressed. You are the one that must decide. I finally came to the conclusion that before I could make the leap into this new world, Alzheimer's world, I needed a construct of this world. I was coming to an understanding of what I wanted to do and how I was going to do it. In order to organize my brain and my ideas, I decided I need a picture of what this might look like. This is how I began to picture my relationship, my new relationship with my mom. The yellow section is the intersection of my mother's world and my world. I call this yellow intersection Alzheimer's world. In the Alzheimer's reading room, I write about my own efforts to understand, cope, and deal effectively with Alzheimer's. If you would like to gain an understanding of my views and my own metamorphosis as an Alzheimer's caregiver, look for the link to the article, Advice and Insight from the Alzheimer's Reading Room, in the show notes below this podcast. If you want to read about my own construct of communication in Alzheimer's world, look for this topic page, Communicating in Alzheimer's World. The link is in the notes. I continue to develop articles on Alzheimer's world and how over time I developed a plan to make the leap into Alzheimer's world. How I learned to get into Alzheimer's world, how I learned to function in Alzheimer's world, and how, together with my mother, we learned to thrive in Alzheimer's world. I continue to write and elaborate about Alzheimer's world all the time, over time. Dottie and I learned how to live our life one day at a time. We coped and communicated with each other in the intersection of our lives, best described as Alzheimer's world. Here is one quick tip that really works. Always remember, it's not their fault. You just listened to original content from the Alzheimer's Reading Room. You are always welcome to join with us. We have over 36,000 active readers. We offer a free subscription service. You can join with us by going to the alzheimersreadingroom.com. Thanks for listening. See you all next time.